This conference will now be recorded.
You know, if people would talk, they wanted to see each other.
Oh.
Okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. I would like to call the village board to order for Thursday, April 2nd. Roll call, please.
Trustee Allison Williams.
Present. I heard a present in the background, just.
Thank you. Trustee
Sorry.
Paul.
Here.
Trustee Zerbal.
Here.
Trustee Bukowski.
Here.
Trustee Melchewski.
Here.
President Kardasky.
Here.
And Trustee Williams.
He's excused. He's excused.
Or excused, very well.
Okay, please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remember all our men and women in uniform. Okay, I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, action items. 5A, request to contract with Steve Meade for temporary electrical inspections. Allison.
So we have gone through the recruitment process for the electrical inspector. We have worked with 2 different candidates, but due to the current state of disruption, they do not want to commit at this time. I think one of them will commit once it's over, but we're just having difficulty filling the position. We're leaving it open to continue to try. But meanwhile, we do have some electrical inspections backing up. We don't have an overabundance of inspections themselves. Eric's been able to keep up for the most part, but Eric is not qualified to do the electrical inspections because you have to be essentially a master electrician in the state of Wisconsin in order to get that certification, and he's the master plumber side. So we reached out to various municipalities, or Aaron did, and Steve Meade is on contract with the city of De Pere and is a village resident. He's willing to contract with us on a short-term basis. He would do it for $30 per hour. He's provided us with his auto insurance and liability insurance, and we would like to engage him until we can, just to do the electrical inspections until such time as we can fill that position. And Aaron's had some conversations with him, so if you have any other questions, Aaron can answer those.
Is this the same person we hired before?
No.
No, this is a different person. This person currently contracts with the city of De Pere, village of Bellevue, and village of Alloway. It's a different person than we had previously.
Okay.
This is Ken. I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion.
You say who actually did the motion and did the second, so it's clear for the recording.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Bukowski and a second by trustee Melchewski to approve the contract with Steve Meade for temporary electrical inspections. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. 5B, approve emergency leave policy 6.12 at the village personnel manual.
So as part of the, there's a lot of legislation that on the federal level on COVID. The first sheet attachment that you have, I'm not sure if I can see that, that is the poster that the federal government has just issued like late last week on it. And then we have drafted a policy that you see on the subsequent pages. And this meets federal law. It's a temporary policy, if you will, in the sense that it is effective from April 1st through December 31st of 2020. After that, the both our policy and federal law would go away unless the federal government took action to extend it. Did you have a question? Sorry.
No, I've been on the phone with the federal people listening to this whole law issue and make your head swirl a little bit, but a lot of laws.
So the first part to it is an emergency leave, where it requires employers to provide 2 weeks of paid sick leave. This is in addition to our existing sick leave. This is completely separate from any of our sick leave policies, vacation policies, everything else. So it would kick in where an employee is subject to a federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order. The employee has been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to concerns related to COVID, or they're experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking a medical diagnosis. This provision is, per federal law, is capped at how much per day and everything. Really, all of our employees would be governed by that. They would not exceed the maximum. And we have all employees subject to this portion of the policy. The second portion is leave for care of others. There is a portion where the employee is experiencing symptoms that are similar to COVID, but it's, could be just the regular flu. Say they got tested and found out it was negative, it's just a regular flu, they would fall into this next category. And then they're also caring for another family member who has COVID, or if their son or daughter, they need to care for them because the schools are closed or daycares are closed. And this portion, the employees are covered by 2/3 pay by the village, in addition to, this, again, separate from all our other policies. This policy, I have inserted in here that we would allow employees to use their own sick or vacation or other leave to supplement the unpaid time they would otherwise experience. And that's a voluntary thing that we can do. Excuse me. And then under this portion of the provision, we are excluding emergency responders. And if on the second page, that would include myself, the village attorney, director of public safety, director of public works, the village engineer, utility operations supervisor, the public works operations supervisor, all sworn public safety officers, and all public works, parks, and water sewer utility operations employees. So essentially the guys out in the garage. We are allowing employees to, if they had some other flu, these emergency responders would still apply to that. But in terms of the care of others or care of their children, we have excluded them from this, and this is allowed under the federal law. The reason why we are excluding them as per the federal law, and it's certainly optional under federal law, but the reason for doing so is if we had, let's just say, half of our public safety force decides that they need to care for someone else, or they have to care for their children, and because they're not in daycare, we would very quickly run out of employees. And how do we start to balance that? So we still have the option to try and work with people, say it happens in public works. Right now, we have more people than we have essential tasks to do. But if people start getting sick, then we're going to have other issues out there. But we certainly could work with those employees outside of this policy for those provisions. And then the other portion of the federal law is an expanded family medical leave, which also provides kind of an overlapping or adds. You still only get family medical leave on the year for a total of 12 weeks, but this kind of adds a reason for the daycare, schools closed, caring for your son or daughter. And again, that's limited to your son, daughter, stepson, stepdaughter type of thing. It's not for care of the neighbor kid or somebody like that. So,
Isn't that one, that FMLA one, isn't it that it has to be the person directly in your household?
It would have to be your son or your daughter.
Okay, but I thought, okay.
Or somebody you're granted care to, yes. If your son or daughter does not live with you ever, yes, we'd want to dig into that. But So the by federal law, this actually went into place yesterday, but we thought we would bring it through you guys. We could not do a meeting yesterday, so so we have to do something with this. Your options really are, you could change the emergency responders, who's included or not included on that list. Oh wait, I forgot. I also added the finance director on that, so we actually would need to amend that to include the finance director. I must have grabbed a wrong attachment. Sorry, Greg. The reason we added Greg was payroll and paying bills. We don't have a way around that.
It's a kind of a complicated issue, but it's fairly easy if you just think that you can change the people that we have excluded. But one of those laws
this is sorry, this is Allison. I have been living, breathing, eating, sleeping, everything COVID. I know you're just obviously going with the federal law. So I would move to approve whatever, I don't know, what is the title?
The emergency leave policy, 6.12, and then you're subject to the amendment to add the finance director among the in subpart 6.
Yes, that.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Allison Williams, a second by Chris Zerbel to approve the emergency leave policy 6.12 with the addition of Greg Wenholz under number 6 for limitations, adding the finance director, not a specific name. Okay.
Don't mean to be
Any more
crass,
discussion?
just have a question. I presume this is going to be costly. We have funds someplace to take care of this, whatever it turns out to be.
So this one we don't have a choice to. Can I kind of defer that question to the last agenda item, because we'll go through that and you do have some options.
Sure.
And so it's kind of a longer discussion. So if we can just delay that to item number 3.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. Okay, 5C, discussion and action on employees subject to Governor's Order Number 12. Allison, again, a lot of telephone calls I've listened to all this
And a
stuff.
lot of moving parts.
Yes.
So in terms of what our truly essential jobs are, is obviously public safety. They have limited, so sworn officers, that's business as usual. The records department, everybody's gone home. Diane Hayes is linked in and able to keep up. Obviously citations are down at this point, and other workload to some extent is down, but I believe she's able to keep up. One of the tricky parts we have with connecting the records department is, I believe, Jeremy was here, he'd tell me for sure, but I believe they are hooked into certain provisions by an IP address. So you can't just log into a website from home. It's like you would have to remote from your computer to your computer here at work to get into the next place, just because of the security precautions that are in all of that software. So that one's a little more complicated. And Public Works, they are doing garbage, recycling. The governor has excluded public works projects. So some of the actual contracts that we've already let, or that you did last meeting, those are still in force and effect. So Doug and Steve are very busy.
Currently, Public Works, it's refuse and recycling, like Allison mentioned. It's the spring cleanup is underway, along with the street sweeping that goes along with that. And then next week will be election work, and then the pickup will start at that point in time. So as it sits right now, we just go a little further. We have the crew split in half, so that we have redundancy, if you will. 17 total, 15 employees with 2 mechanics. So we have the mechanics split, and then the employee split that's 8 on, 9 off, and then 9 on, 8 off on a weekly basis right now. As the spring progresses, the number of people coming on board is slowly going to progress as well as the grass dries out and starts to grow. The park department will be bringing some people on board for cutting, so it's going to, as the weeks go on here, it's going to slowly ramp back up. But in terms of construction, all of our construction projects are all still being bid out, and the ones that started construction are all under construction.
So Doug is doing what we call platooning, if you will, rotating through. That helps in terms of they can wipe down the trucks at the end of the week and the new crew comes in, as opposed to different people ending up in different vehicles, trying to keep them in the same vehicle the entire week. In Park and Rec, the 3 maintenance workers are alternating different days. They have different vehicles. Right now, they're just going through the parks. We have had some vandalism in parks. People are still kind of traveling through the parks or going to parks, so there's still garbage and some basic things and some maintenance items on a grander scale in terms of, they're not painting anything, but if something, they need to check on various things and make sure there's no damage and verify. So they're circling through and doing that, but they're on a rotating one every 3 days for the 3 of them. And as Doug mentioned, they will then have to start grass mowing and some of that shortly. We have not brought in any seasonal employees at this point, and we're going to delay that. Our first goal would have all our existing employees start doing those essential functions before we bring in additional employees. Obviously, the clerk's office has been super busy, and that will continue through next Friday, essentially, because there will be some reporting that'll have to be done. And then at that point, Barb helps from the assessor's office, helps full-time with the elections now, but she's kind of behind the 8 ball in terms of getting tax assessments, things ready for board of review, so she'll switch gears into that. And then Terry, we're kind of working through whether she's at home or work, but she'll still have to continue with agendas and meeting minutes, does the mail so everybody else can process bills and all those kind of things, so she'll probably be a little bit of in and out. In the finance department, we have Jen, kind of forgot to mention, and the water utility employees are rotating as well.
Right now we have 5 employees in the water and sewer utility, and there's 2 on, 3 off currently. So the person that's on call and the next in line is how we're rotating. So at this point in time, some of the maintenance that we generally start, valves, hydrant flushing, all that starts typically in May. So we're able to pare down the workload so that we're only having 2 people out at a time. And then in terms of billing and phone calls and things of that nature, there's a building inspection, public works secretary and Patty, and then there's a utility clerk and public works secretary and Jen, and they're rotating days. They're splitting days. Every other day they're in.
So they each have their own cubicle, so they alternate. We thought about doing like 1 week at a time, kind of platooning it, but to some extent their job duties are separated, and we thought it would just help with communication and kind of keep things moving. So they are alternating days, but again, separate cubicles. People can still call in if they have, sewer or water issues. We will still deal with those, and there's still someone answering those phones, but Village Hall is closed except for voting. Once voting is done after Tuesday, then Village Hall will be closed. People can still call or, mail their stuff in or whatever. Pat will shortly be getting liquor licenses and whatnot, but we want those people to mail that stuff in. And then in the park department, everybody in parks in terms of the community center is obviously closed. Pretty much all of those employees are able to work from home and have been doing so. There's some stuff that everybody just needs to come in because we all don't have scanners at home that we can scan the bills in or scan whatever just to try and continue to be productive. But by and large, I would say 90% of the people are actively working or on some sort of partial work schedule. To that end, we've sent people home, but we have not stopped paying them. We have not told them to change their payroll stubs, if you will. We're still in that same pay period. So we would like to continue to pay employees. As part of that, and I have Greg is on the phone somewhere in there. I've had Greg gather information from all the department heads as to where we are budgetarily. So, just some things that are big swings. Obviously, hotels are suffering greatly, and we get a portion of that room tax. So the March report, which will come in April, we'll start seeing a significant decrease in room tax that is collected. We get like a percentage of the overall percentage. So our total amount of room tax for the year that is a revenue to our budget is about $400,000. So you can see that that's going to start taking a hit. As you said, citations are down both from an issuance standpoint also, and then also from just the ability to collect. We have a few open positions which will help. Our change to health insurance in general, we had more people switch to the HSA than we planned, so that is overall helping from a revenue side of things. In total, Greg can jump in here, but overall we're on task. We thought it would be worse than it is, but where we lost some things, but we're saving some money on the flip side. Greg, do you want to hop in on any other key points in terms of what you looked at and saw?
Sure. So, as Allison pointed to, the big revenue losses that I've kind of projected out would be room tax. And I'm being pretty conservative, essentially almost nothing for 3 months. And then probably I would assume there'll still be some apprehension throughout the summer for people to travel, even though any bans are lifted. So I would think they're going to, suffer. Everybody's probably aware of all sports that are canceled, and is the NFL going to happen or not? Obviously, I'm not factoring any loss of NFL games at this point. So clearly that would have a significant impact. Then other things like Allison said, citations, traffic stops, that kind of revenue, investment income, dropping that, although that's a little bit delayed. Because a lot of our investments are tied into municipal bonds. So therefore, those, as new issuances occur, they'll be at much lower rates of return, but certainly won't have a huge immediate impact on the investments. That will certainly, as the year goes along, will lower some of our income. Rescue, ambulance billing services, we just don't know. We actually had a pretty good first 2 months from a revenue perspective there, and we were trending well above budget. So at this point, I don't know that rescue calls have gone down so much as they probably have a little bit. And then we haven't had any COVID related calls, but that's kind of an unknown how that's really going to play out. So I didn't do too much there. So there's a lot of revenue lost. Park and Rec, Rex and his group provided me some numbers of program revenues lost, and then I'd say about, from an expense side, maybe 70% of the revenue loss, there was a matching decrease in expenses, obviously due to the employees who would be working to cover those programs. But the area where and how we're able to stay flat is when we do budgeting in the fall, we have to have our budget done before open enrollment is done, open enrollment for insurance policies. We had a huge migration of employees go from the traditional plan to the HSA plan. And the HSA plan is much cheaper to the village than the PPO plan. And that pretty much, that impact is about a $275,000 swing to the good for us. We also included in that, there were about 4 employees who had been on our health plan who dropped from our health plan for whatever reasons. So that's completely taken them off any plan. So that's the good news in this. Obviously, we will know next year that won't happen again because the HSA plan will be the only option. but we did have a huge migration over. So that is helping offset tremendously all of the loss of revenue. Some of the other areas, like Allison said, we had some attrition. So I went through that, for example, building inspection. So Kyle left and he's going to be gone. I'm projecting about 11 weeks, I suppose, by the time we get someone in, if we have to wait till June or something like that. And so that will help offset that cost of the contractor. And then just other areas, I don't see, a lot of other areas, travel, that kind of stuff. Conferences have been canceled. So we kind of went through and took care of some of that. But really, for the most part, people's supply budgets and kind of all that, it's so low as it is. And if we're going to keep most of our operations going, we are. I dropped fuel a little bit as we're using less vehicles and gas prices are lower. That's just in the short term. I would imagine those gas companies, as things get back to normal, pricing will probably drive up. And then also our electric utility, a little bit less usage, but overall, it's not a huge change to our expense side. Just it's too early. People are buying some new things. Public safety hasn't necessarily bought a lot of COVID-related items at this point. But I am tracking all those costs with its own account code, if you will. And I've already applied to open up the relief grant with FEMA. And then there's a whole process to ask for reimbursement. So as we're tracking costs, and if things get worse, we'll certainly keep tracking those and then go through the process with the federal government and whatever that results in. I have no idea or any confidence in what kind of reimbursement we would get, but at least we're going to go through that process. So overall, I think at the end of the day, as is, I think we're going to be able to weather the storm here, unless it just blows up considerably. And I don't, that's speculative at best. The other impact potentially, this is just the general fund and also all kind of the capital project funds and everything. As far as utilities are concerned, I'm not sure that there's going to be that much of an impact. If nothing else, maybe there's actually more water being used because people are at home. I don't know. It's kind of hard to gauge, from a revenue perspective, how much of impact that's going to be. Doug might be able to shed more light on that, but I didn't do anything really there because I don't think that there's going to be too much change in the utility side.
Right. I think for any increase on the residential water usage, we're going to see some decrease in commercial water usage as there are not a lot, but there are a few businesses that have ramped down, if you will. So I think for more people staying home and the water usage there, residential water usage per person is a lot less than a commercial water usage. So I think, as Greg was mentioning, I think that's going to even itself out. You may have seen on the news, the Public Service Commission has, just like they're doing with rent and mortgages and things of that nature on the water and sewer utility end, or on the water utility end, which they regulate, late fees, things of that nature are all being waived, and payment plans or deferred payments are now allowed throughout the state for any balances that people have. So the payments will still come in, but if somebody requests it, it can come in over a longer period of time instead of paying your bill all in 1 month. If you request it, you can get it paid over time. So again, at the end of the day, I think it's all going to work out. It's just a delay factor, if you will.
So overall, we think budgetary-wise, at least as to where we think we are right now, we are fine. So with that, we would like to continue to pay employees. What I'm thinking is that we just leave everybody on the payroll. This would apply to all regular full-time and part-time people. This is not seasonal people or contract people, the people Park and Rec hires to do an exercise class, this would not apply to them. And then we would revisit this at the end of the month on the 24th, because then we'll know, are we extending, is it going to be extended for another 30 days, and then at that point, do we look at some other options? We have a lot of employees with a lot of vacation time and things like that. Maybe there's a way to split some of those things. But for right now, I think we're in a good financial position to be able to do this. And personally, I just think it's the right thing to do. You know, people are working, and we're having people work to the extent that we can, but it's difficult times, and but that is for you to decide.
I agree. I've always said this, that we have great employees here at the village, and I think that the fact that they know that their paycheck isn't going to be going away through this crisis right now gives them comfort. And we have called on employees that are at home, and the majority of them, you know, are open to being able to come in and do anything that they possibly can do. So I just think it's the right thing to do.
Agreed. People are your biggest asset. You got to take care of them.
I agree, and I want to commend the administration, the village, for putting the village in a position to allow us to, if we vote on this, if we accept it, to allow us to do this type of thing for our employees, because they are valuable, and it was important for all the like I said, the administration and the hard work that everybody put in over the years to allow us to be in the shape we're in financially to do this.
This is Ken. I couldn't agree more. I want to thank Mary and Allison and Greg and Doug and all the other department heads. I think you're doing a great job of taking care of this, and I couldn't agree more that we need to take care of our employees and show them that they are held in high esteem by us and the village. And you know what? If the finances turn out to be what they are, if they get worse, there's not much we can do about it. It's something that has to be done. I'll move to approve the if there's a something to approve here. What you need a motion?
Motion to continue to pay employees. I guess we do it through April 30th, and we'll revisit this on our April 28th meeting to see if we should make any adjustments at that time. But at least for the extension of the governor's order would be April 30th.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Bukowski and a second by Trustee Malcheski to continue to pay the employees as we have been through April 30th. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. I'm glad that everybody appreciates all the work that our employees do here. We've got a great village, so. Okay. Any other questions on anything?
Yeah, this is Allison. Just a really quick question. We've seen it in the news everywhere, wondering how our public safety is doing with masks, if there's a need, or I'll call it not even masks, face coverings. Is there a need out there? I've on my drive to work every day, there's a billboard for Grand Chute Police Department accepting donations. So just curious kind of where we're at, or if there's a need or what.
I've not heard anything that they don't have what they need. I think the issue depends on how bad this gets and when it runs out. They have stuff, but you know, certainly in terms of how they're clothed or whatever, when they do deal with a COVID patient, it's not body armor, that's for sure. Yeah. And you know, you have to realize too, like our police officers are out there, they're also interacting with people in a different situation. You know, if they're a homeless person or something, you don't know what they've been in contact with or how many people they've been in contact with, and you know, COVID affects all people equally. So there's certainly a lot of rubber gloves, but they're not necessarily wearing PPE all you know, driving around in vehicles and whatnot. So certainly I think we would accept donations if it was sent our way. We would gladly accept that. And I think also to thank a few people in the community. There's been a donation. We will hopefully be getting a commercial dryer soon. Because if you know anything about it, like washing your clothes doesn't actually get it out, but the high heat in the dryer. So we're looking at trying to be able to get that in place. So, you know, if they went on a call, to be able to change your clothes and, you know, go into one set and be drying and washing another set so that you can put that back on for the next person. That would be, so they're making some changes, and they're looking at some additional changes potentially to staffing. Right now, we haven't had the need. They're fairly segregated as best as possible right now. And people should call in with their complaints. What are you telling me? I don't know what you're saying.
A quick question that, how are we doing on next Tuesday? I mean, what if this all changes and the state says no election, or, I mean, are we flexible in that regard? Or are we going to close a couple of the voting locations and go and consolidate, or not?
No, all 6 polling locations will be operational.
Pat's position has been that there would be greater separation of people if they were spread out across locations. And while he loses a handful of people each day, he magically seems to find a handful of people each day. And we also have a lot of village employees that we would just pull them back in. Mary and I are designated poll workers, and we have a few other people that will be picked up in to assist if necessary to fill in those gaps. And also, Public Works has been awesome. They they basically have legs on them, right? And made out of wood, and then they attach a 8-foot by 4-foot section of plexiglass, and that will go over all the long tables that the poll workers sit at. So there'll actually be a shield there, and then they can slide stuff underneath it.
Their IDs, poll books, what have you.
Pat has a plethora of pens. He has
sounds like a dirty word.
4 years ago, we had 6,700 people that actually voted, and right now he is at
just absentee ballot applications, and coupled with in-person voting. Last night when I left, we were approaching 4,000.
So we might have, 2,000-3,000 people at the polls potentially, but hopefully that continues to dwindle. Absentee ballot requests are due today.
At 5 o'clock.
By 5 o'clock, and then in-person voting ends.
Continues today and tomorrow till 5.
And tomorrow, which is Friday, right?
At 5 p.m.
Friday at 5. So I would assume he'll get in a fair number yet today. I mean, he's getting hundreds of requests a day,
Easily.
at least. I think over the first weekend, you said you had like 1,000?
Put it this way, 2 weeks ago today, we had 310 absentee applications.
Now you have close to 4,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So people are being good about getting those absentee ballot requests in, and if we continue to push on that, if you know people, encourage them to do that, that would be helpful.
5 by 5, yeah.
So that would help us reduce the number of people actually coming for elections as well. That will be helpful.
Okay.
Colonel, what you see with the consolidation, that's more so for those municipalities because they have election inspectors not willing to work or refusing to work because of the virus. Green Bay has lost well over 200 election inspectors. That's why they're looking to go from 31 polling locations to 4.
Wow.
I don't think they've been seeking people either, though.
I can't speak to that. I haven't spoken to the clerk in a matter of weeks. But Alloway has 3 polling locations. They too, by virtue of on clerk's list, they consolidated to 1 because they don't have the people.
Okay.
Fortunately, our citizens have been stepping up, and not only our citizens, but also staff here at Village Hall. So it's been a team effort, certainly.
Well, thank you. Thanks
They've
for a
been
great
busy.
job.
It has sided slightly, but it's been pretty stressful for them.
Yes, I know.
I give Pat and the Public Works crews, big kudos too for building those shields with that plexiglass. I think Nina's using them also, so.
Well, I know,
Good job
Pat,
on
that Beth, Barb, and Terry have been doing great work in taking care of all those ballots. They've really been working hard.
Absolutely.
Yep.
They're the backbone of the operation.
Yeah, Beth, all of them, yeah. Okay, any more discussion?
Vote on that. You didn't vote on that thing yet.
You didn't vote on that?
Did you vote on that?
I got it unanimous.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Yeah, we
making
do.
sure.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the trustee Williams had a sidebar.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so we now need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Zerbal, a second by trustee Bukowski to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
You guys are awesome with technology. I encourage you to use it. We'll use this for all our meetings in April. You guys honestly have done great. If anybody needs help with the technology or wants to do it from home, this is how it's set up. Everybody can see anything, so
I can handle a phone
feel
with the
bad
best.
about using the technology. Thank you.
I can handle a phone as good as Gary Paul.
Really?
I also
Maybe.
have, go ahead, Gary.
No, I was just contradicting Bukowski. He still got, and he don't
Would
even
you-
have a real phone.
Which you do with great gusto.
I do have the paper that Kurt Watinsky, who is the attorney for the he's actually the deputy director for the League of Municipalities, about government options for conducting meetings remotely. If anybody needs some bedtime reading and they would like to see it, I will scan it and email it to them. So let me know. With that, we are done.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.